Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name is Christine, and in this video we're going to talk about how to layer stencils. So first off, I just want to talk a bit about different stencils. Today I'm going to be using stencils from the Crafter's Workshop. Now their stencils typically come in a 12 by 12 or a 6 by 6, but then they also have a few in like this 5 by 7. But typically it is the 12 by 12 and the 6 by 6. And all the stencil will come in both sizes, and what it is this stencil will be shrunk down to the 6 by 6 size. So it's not like it's just been cut out, it's shrunk down so you have a smaller pattern. Now I like to get a lot of the stencils in both sizes. However, when it comes to like texture like this is like a bubble wrap texture, then I'll only get it in the small size because I know I'll mainly be using it only in the small size. I don't want really big bubble wrap designs on my page. As well as this dot one, it only came in this one size. So when you're buying stencils, you want to buy a variety. You don't want just really big designs like this that fill in all your area, because you'll find that you'll put it on the page and you can't put another one on top. So it's nice to get a variation of sizes. So we have this all over pattern, I have some hearts, and then these small little textures. And I find these texture stencils to be used over and over again because it just adds that little something in areas where you're like finding it's a little stark or you need something. So we're going to use these stencils I have here to layer up on a page so you can see how the stencils work with each other. So I have my art journal here. This is the Dina Wakley art journal, and it has like the cotton sheets, fabric sheets, and some craft sheets in it. We're going to be using this side here though. So when I first start, I'll put my stencil down on the sheet wherever you want it. And for your first layer, you want to start with a softer color. You don't want to go too bold out of the gate because you're going to be layering things on top of this. So I'm going to start with magenta. I'm using Dina Wakley's heavy body paints today. I'm going to be putting the paint over here. So when I'm coming over here, you know what I'm doing. It just makes it easier because I'm right-handed. Oh, my paint is a little stuck. Just going to get a needle in there. A little pin. Let's see if it's gonna, oh, there we go. It's out. Okay. So I have my stencil. I'm putting my, so now we'll just work over here. So I'm just using this to brush on the color, and it's a nice pretty pink. But some other good base colors would be like yellow, soft blues. You want to typically start light, or at least that's how I like to work. Now, of course, there's many ways that you can layer stencils. This is just one way I'm trying to explain to you to make you understand a bit more if you're not used to layering pattern. Now, you don't have to fill the whole page with the stencil either, right? You can just do areas of the page. But for this idea today, I'm just going to fill the whole page. And if some of the area didn't get covered, that's fine too, because as I said, we're building layers. So ta-da, you can see how pretty is that? So pretty. And so we have that nice layer of soft pink. Now I'm going to need to dry this between each layer so the paint layers on top of one another and doesn't sort of blend in together. So I'm going to dry it. I use the Ranger Heat It tool to dry. It shouldn't take too long because I just put a thin brush of paint over top, but it will just sort of seal it in. think that's pretty good because, as I said, I just used such a thin layer. So next, I decided I was going to put these hearts on. So I sort of put it there, and this time I think I'll use the Tangerine. Let's see how this comes out. Oh, perfect. So just because I'm actually going to use my pink sponge for the orange, and so some of that color will blend in. And you can see how little paint you really need. I always end up putting too much paint down on my craft sheet. I'm going to pick up a bit more of the orange. Now, if you don't have a craft sheet to work on, you can just get maybe a plastic, little like that clear plastic packaging, and you could use that even. Just something to put your paint on. So there's the hearts. Now, because of the orange, it was a little thinner mixed in, but it's just starting, even though you don't necessarily see all the hearts, it's giving you that texture on the background. I think I'm going to actually find another stencil before we go small. I think we can put something else on here too. So I'm going to dry my orange paint, get us another stencil, and then we'll come back for the next layer. So I decided on this 6x6 stencil to put next. And the reason is I want to cover up some of that pink background, but I didn't want really bold shapes if I was to use this in the 12x12 version. I'm going to use the Peacock paint with it. Put some there. I'm going to use a new sponge this time just because the orange and the blue would make like a brown and I don't want that. So I'm just going to rub it over, and this time I'm not doing the whole thing in this. I'm just trying to add a bit of color over top of it to mask some of that background. So you can see now by adding this, it's taking away some of that bold pink background. I think I'm going to need some more paint. So as you do the layers and work, the idea you might have had in your mind could change, and you could be inspired like, wait, I want to add this to it, or I want to do that to it. And remember, if you do something you don't like it, you can always paint over top of it. So I'm going to dry this layer, and then we'll do another layer. So we have quite a bit of color going on here, and you can see how when you're building up layers, you get the layers showing through, which makes it really interesting. So now I want to throw in a bit more white back into it. So I have this stencil here. Again, it's a 6x6 stencil. In this case, I'm not so concerned about the pattern. I'm just using the stencil to put white on the page without just having big blobs of white. So I'm not paying so much attention to the flowers and what sort of flower or whatever I'm doing. I'm just using it to put the white through. The white is a good paint to add as a layer because you still get those layers coming through it, but it takes away some of like the brightness or the color or that. And it starts to put that pink, our first layer, more in the background. And depending how much paint you have on too. So now that first layer we did, there's enough layers on top of it and paint covering it that it's in the background. And those orange hearts, really all they're acting as is these little punches of orange peeking through the blue and the white. So I'll quickly dry that, and then we're going to move on to our texture. So now we're going to add the texture on. I'm going to use a black paint. I'm starting with the larger one first, which was the bubble wrap. And I'm just brushing my thing through. And you can see with that addition of black, it starts to sort of pull the page together. So I'm only going to do, say, that much with the bubble wrap, but then come in with these dots. And I'm going to put the dots right over the bubble wrap. Let's see if I still have some paint. I think I need a bit more paint on my sponge. And I mainly do this, say, around the edges, and I might hit a little in the middle-ish. But I'm sort of leaving that middle open for whatever it is I'm going to add to the page later. And so you can see the two layers of black, be the bigger bubble wrap and the small dots, how it sort of ties and pulls the page in together. So even though this page is pretty like out there, I know this is out of a lot of people's comfort zone to put this much color and pattern layered on top of one another. It just shows you how you can build layers. As I said, you don't have to fill the whole page. You could have just done that pink around the edge. You can do all these just around the edge or along one side or just areas of your page. But by working with the big stencil with light colors, and as you work up, like the middle stencil is, say, a medium, and the smaller the stencil, the darker your paint can be, is the best way, in my opinion, how I like to work from large and light to small and dark, and layer up your patterns. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on ways that you can layer your stencils.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a couple other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.